In its continued efforts aimed at tightening down on cryptocurrency trading, the Central Bank of Nigeria has penalized 6 banks for 1.314 billion naira over alleged non-compliance with regulations on cryptocurrency accounts. According to the Apex Bank, the fine is necessitated by ensuring that commercial restrictions on cryptocurrency trading are in the place. It will be recalled that in February 2021, Nigeria's Central Bank notified deposit money banks, non-financial institutions and other financial institutions against doing business in crypto and other digital assets. Since the ban in 2021, cryptocurrency players have relied largely on peer-to-peer transactions to bypass banking restrictions as well as avoid being caught. The affected banks include Stanbic IBTC, First City Monument Bank, Access Bank, Wema Bank, United Bank for Africa, Fidelity Bank. Joining me to look at this is a senior manager, tax and regulatory services at Deloitte, Mr. Najim Yusuf. Good afternoon, Mr. Yusuf.
Good afternoon, Tolu, and thank you for having me today.
Great, it's great to see you too. What do you make of Central Bank of Nigeria's fine of 6 banks, of course, for failing to comply with a directive to block customers from transacting in cryptocurrencies?
Okay, so I'll start by saying that based on what I can see, banks have generally complied with the requirement to not facilitate cryptocurrency transactions. But for some reasons, some transactions may or will slip through the crack. And you understand that before the ban last year, what was common was that people have accounts with cryptocurrency platforms and then transact between their Naira accounts and their crypto accounts. And that was what the banks were able to easily close down. But beyond that, those platforms evolved to like a peer-to-peer platform. So people have transactions on those platforms, but they then settle in Naira technically outside the platform. So if I buy, say, 0.1 Ethereum on one of those platforms, and I need to settle, so I just settle the person through my GT Bank account or maybe his Zenith account. And the bank doesn't know what I'm paying for. The bank doesn't know whether I'm paying for services, doesn't know whether I'm buying snacks, doesn't know whether I'm giving a loan. I mean, it's just the irregular transfer, and that's going to be tough for the banks to pick. I suspect that what may have happened is that maybe when those transfers happened, somebody had put a narration that suggested that it was a crypto transaction, and the bank didn't have a tool to be able to detect, to be able to read those narrations without having individuals to look at them. So it doesn't look like an intentional attempt by the banks to flout the CBN requirements. I think it's just one of those few things that will then slip to the crack. So maybe the big deal for the banks is to be able to look into their processes again to help them pick all those issues such that you have minimal cases of those kind of crypto transactions slip to the crack. But the reality is that it appears, I mean, even though I don't have the facts, it appears that a lot of cryptocurrency transactions still happens on a P2P basis. If you and I have a crypto transaction, we can transact on a platform, and effectively Naira, I mean, nobody knows what we're paying for to each other. And I hear that a lot is happening, and nobody is seeing it. The bank cannot see it, the CBN cannot see it. And I think that's what should be the focus of the CBN. A lot of thinking has to go into it, on the part of the CBN, on the part of the banks, on the part of other regulators, to be able to identify. I mean, if the intention is to be able to avoid Nigerians from conducting cryptocurrency transactions, and whether within the financial system, it has to be a way of controlling those P2P transactions from happening. If you don't do that, you only pick a few instances where the CBN can identify and the bank can identify, and you place a ban on that business. Because the reality is that there are valid concerns with cryptocurrency. It's a decentralized system. It's possibly a tool to fund terrorism, for money laundering, possibly tax evasion. All that can have significant effects on our economy, and I strongly think these concerns are valid, even though I still believe they're positives to it. But again, there has to be a way of the central banking system having some oversight around financial transactions, whether it's the fiat currency, whether it's the digital currency, whether it's the cryptocurrency. So my general submission is that that file is not going to. I don't think it's going to go a long way to control the overall intention of the CBN, which is to completely ban cryptocurrency transaction. those transactions are actively happening, and CBN has to do some extra thinking to find a way of dealing with to control what they intend to control.
Brilliant stuff there from you, Najim. Thank you so much. But do you think government can see the crypto market transactions for the prospects that are bound rather than its fixed opinion on it for, of course, terrorism financing, money laundering, considering the enormity of virtual transactions, and how would you rate the performance of Nigeria's central bank digital currency? That's the e-Naira and its adoption so far. I got my wallet here.
Okay, so I do not think the government is fixed on the downsides of cryptocurrency. Because if you hear when the CBN governor talks, or maybe the finance minister and all that, when they talk about the cryptocurrency, the concern has always been that the downsides in their view outweighs the benefits. Because no government, I mean, many governments do not want a financial system that they cannot control, that they cannot oversee, that they don't know what's going on there, and that's a big risk. And so what they have said is that, well, I mean, because the advantages with a digital currency, we're going to create an alternative, which is what the Nigeria has called the e-Naira. I mean, and the whole idea is that the e-Naira is going to generate the kind of opportunity, kind of possible size that you have with cryptocurrency. And because with e-Naira, government has a lot of oversight over it. But I think the CBN has not done enough to in quote market the e-Naira. It's not popular yet. It's been out there for so many months. I have a wallet. I've never had to use it, and nobody is telling us what the big advantages are, how you can use it to do cross-border transactions, and the kind of thing, the kind of reasons people use cryptocurrency for the kind of valid reasons people use cryptocurrency. Nobody has been able to tell us how e-Naira is going to achieve similar objectives for us, and that's why many of us opened the wallet when it came out there, but nobody has done a lot to it. And I think that's where CBN needs to come in to make it an alternative, actively market, let people see why it will give them the same advantages that they will get if they were holding cryptocurrency. And naturally, you expect that people will begin to move towards e-Naira. Again, the e-Naira is not well funded. I think in the initial instance, it was just funded with 500 million naira across the entire Nigerian market. And you can imagine what the size of the cryptocurrency market is. I don't know what it is, but I hear people talking about it every now and then. And you can only imagine how large the amount is. Clearly, significantly higher than the volume of money that the CBN put in the e-Naira in the first instance. So I think that's the real concern. So I never understand government's view, and they want something centralized, not decentralized. And they strongly believe in that. And Nigeria is not alone. Many other countries are bound with Nigeria. But what I advise, or what I think CBN should be doing, is to, create an alternative that works, that gives people the advantages that they were getting, what they are getting by holding cryptocurrency. If you do that, you would naturally see that there's going to be a lot of shift from cryptocurrency. The other bit is that because it's peer-to-peer, there may be a lot of investment in technology, in social engineering to find out who are the holders of this platform, who are those that own account, because you want to be able to discourage it. Because if you don't discourage it, the threats that you have identified, the risks you have identified are still there. And you really cannot wait till one of the few instances where banks will slip away and place a 1.3 billion ban on them. That's not going to work. Because the terrorism risk is still there, the money laundering risk is still there. We have issues with banditry, we have issues with kidnapping and all that. Who knows whether they are connected? And that's why government needs to step up its game as government to be able to provide security, to be able to conserve the economy, to be able to activate an economy that works for the Nigerian people.
Brilliant. Yeah, I'm there with you. Now, let's look at IMF's reaction to cryptocurrency markets on the back of Russia and Ukraine crisis. We've seen this development increasing the adoption of digital finance. Just last week, Russia even agreed to accept cryptocurrencies in payment for oil and natural gas trade. What's your reaction to this?
There's I've got a couple of comments to the IMF's reaction. So the first bit is that I think there's some what I'll say. I think I agree to an extent to what IMF has said, because IMF has said that the war in Ukraine and Russia has a way of reducing the dominance of dollar as the world currency, and that's already showing in the last 20 years. The dominance of the dollar has reduced at about 10%, because of different factors. And one of those factors contributing to the reduction of the dominance of the dollar includes the Russian war. I mean, for example, Russia is saying that they're going to accept cryptocurrencies. They've even said that they're going to even accept the local currencies of their friendly countries that intend to buy oil and gas for them. And that has helped them in a way. You recall that when the war started, the Russian currency devalued significantly. But since the Russian president made that statement, the value had picked up significantly. Why this has not happened, as far as I know, I do not think that any trade has started happening in cryptocurrency or digital currency. But if it does happen in the next few weeks, pricing is not a problem. I understand that the exchange rates between the dollar and the popular cryptocurrencies, so it's probably going to see the light of the day. And when that happens, if that reduces the dominance of the dollar. So it's not easy to predict a lot of the events that will unfold in the next couple of days, couple of weeks. So what I imagine is that we've got to be patient. We've got to be on the lookout. If we hold any of this asset, whether it's the dollar or it's the Russian currency or it's the cryptocurrency, there may be significant impact of the value of those cryptocurrencies now. Because if that begins to happen, the value may go up. It can go down depending on how much volume of transactions are traded in those digital currencies. So a lot is likely to happen in the next few weeks, and it's important to be alive to see how it impacts individual transactions, how it impacts assets that we hold as individuals and as countries. And so that's largely what I think it's going to look like.